The biggest bike race in the world starts this coming Saturday, the 5th of July.
Pogačar versus Vingegaard versus Evenepoel, Milan versus Malia versus Philipsen, Van der Poel versus Van Aert. It promises to be a Tour de France for the ages.
I would agree with that. So coming up, a look at every single one of the 21 stages, plus all the main riders and the teams supporting them. But first, this is what happened last year.
Tadej Pogačar taking his third win at the race off the back of two editions where he played second fiddle to Vingegaard and Visma, with Remco Evenepoel on the third step of the podium.
And the best young rider, let's not forget. Those three are all back racing again this year, and this will be their biggest goal of the season. All right, let's get on with the route, shall we? Overall, this 112th edition of the race is 3,339 kilometres and all within the confines of France.
Yeah, there are two individual time trials totalling 44 kilometres, 7 flat stages, 6 hilly stages, and then 6 stages in the high mountains.
5 of those are summit finishes. Haut-de-Camp, Luchon-Super-Bagné, Mont Ventoux, Courchevel, Col de la Loze, which is the highest point of the race actually at 2,304 metres. And then finally, La Plaine Tarentaise.
Yeah, we don't have any gravel and we don't have any cobbles, but there are some really tricky stages, particularly in the first week, that are a lot harder than they look on the profiles.
So we better get onto the stages in detail, I guess. The Grand Départ this year is in Lille, northern France, which is quite close to Roubaix and, of course, with the border of Belgium as well. It's the third time that Lille has hosted the start of the race. The last one, though, was 31 years ago.
Stage 1 starts and finishes there, and it looks almost certain that it'll be a sprinter who takes the first yellow jersey as leader of the race. 185 Ks with 1,150 metres of climbing. It's pretty flat, although there are 3 fourth category climbs which will decide the first wearer of the polka dot jersey.
Now, as ever, this first stage is going to be incredibly nervous. Everyone's fresh, everyone's up for it, and everybody wants to be near the front. And of course, there's a lot at stake on the finish line. There are quite a few straight, very open roads en route, so there might be a chance of crosswind depending on the weather. But this is one for me where, yes, I'm really looking forward to the expected sprint, but mainly, I'm just keeping my fingers crossed and hoping everybody stays upright.
Yes, there are quite a few stages in this first week where you'll be hoping for that, I reckon. Yeah. Stage 2 heads from Arras, 50k south of Lille, to a finish in Boulogne-sur-Mer, which is very close to Calais, so I'm sure a few of the UK-based fans watching this will be making the trip over to watch.
I expect so. That's actually the longest stage of this year's race at 209 kilometres. Pretty lumpy too, 2,500 metres climbing in total, with 3 short but very tough climbs in the final 30 Ks. 1.2k at 9.4%, a k at 9.5%, and then 800 metres at 8.8%. And they all come in the space of 20 kilometres, and all on narrow roads from what I can see on Google Maps. So it's going to be very nervous indeed.
Yeah. I mean, you're nervous about it.
I am.
I can tell, yeah. It sounds like one that Mathieu Van der Poel may have marked down in his book.
Definitely, yes. And we know Pogačar also loves those kinds of stages as well.
Although he does also seem to like most stages.
Well, true. There aren't many that he doesn't like, are there? But I don't think he'll be able to help himself when he gets to those climbs at the end of stage 2. Even if he doesn't make the first attack, he'll definitely go, I reckon, if Van der Poel goes, or probably if anybody else attacks.
Yeah, which then means that every other GC rider also needs to be up there and vigilant as well, plus all of their teams.
Which is where they won't all fit, of course, which is where the chaos begins. So you're right, I am particularly nervous about these first few stages.
Yeah, okay, well, let's move on to stage 3, shall we then? 178 kilometres from Valenciennes to Dunkirk on the northern tip of France. I'm not saying that you don't need to be nervous about this one, Dan, but it is planned. Pan Flat. They ascend Mont Cassel, which is regularly used in the 4 days of Dunkirk, with 30k to go, but I mean, it's too far out, isn't it, really, to have much of a bearing on
I'd
that
have thought
outcome.
so, yeah, I'd agree with that. At the end, there's a sweeping right-hander with just over a K to go, and then some long gradual turns between there and the finish. But as sprints go, it does look fairly straightforward.
Stage 4 starts in Amiens Métropole and skirts down. Do you like that?
Yeah, great.
It skirts down to Rouen, home to the late, very great Jacques Anquetil. It's another lumpy one, shorter than the second stage at 174 Ks, but with a similar amount of climbing per kilometre.
And again, with most of that climbing concentrated in the final 50k, where all 5 of the KOMs are located, so it's going to be a tough one. I've actually spoken about this stage to a couple of DSs that are going to be there at the Tour de France, and they both said that this one has the potential to be absolute carnage and mayhem.
Well, I mean, we were looking on Velo Viewer, there are all sorts of red flags in that last 50 kilometres.
So the 30k leading into the final circuit are twisty, very narrow in places, and with a fair bit of road furniture and central dividers that I don't think will be removed ahead of that stage. And then it's just 3.7 k's from the top of the final climb to the finish, most of which is on descent.
Ouch. Okay, let's go through the climbs, shall we? 1.3k at 9.1%, 900 metres at 7.2%, 1.8k at 5%, and then 800 metres at 12%, all in the last 20 k's. That's like Amstel Gold, right?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to split things up, almost certainly. It's an uphill drag to the finish line as well, so the same sort of protagonists, Van der Poel, Van Aert, Pogačar, Evenepoel, etc. I would say Magnus Cort, actually, is my outsider for that stage. You know?
Okay, moving on. Stage 5 is the first of the 2 individual time trials, 33 kilometres, starting and finishing in Caen, with just over 200 metres of climbing.
Most of which comes at the start. This is a real power course, though. Not too technical, good roads, so it's got Evenepoel written all over it. After his time trial at the Dauphiné, I can't see anybody beating him in that stage, not even Ganna.
Whoa. I guess a lot of eyes will be on Pogačar for that one as well. For whatever reason, he lost way more time than you would expect from him in the Dauphiné time trial, even with a decent climb in it. So this one is going to tell us if he's been able to rectify whatever went wrong that day.
Yeah, it'll certainly be one of our first real glimpses, won't it, of the true form of the GC favourites this year. We're still very much in the north of France for stage 6, which heads from Bayeux to Ville-Normandie.
Lovely.
Really good. It's by far the hilliest stage of the race up to that point, with over 3,000 metres of climbing over its 202 kilometres.
Yeah, it must be relentless all day, that one, because the highest point of the race that day is only 350 metres above sea level, and the lowest is 60. So it could, depending on who is in the Maillot Jaune, be a good day for a breakaway success.
With 4Ks to go that day, there's a 1.2k climb, which averages 7.2%, and then even the finish is on a climb, 700 metres long, in double digits.
Van der Poel?
Yeah, maybe Alpecin will try and control the race, actually, but it is a big day to control, especially if they don't get any help. Pogačar might fancy his chances there too as well, but again, not sure he'll want to burn his team at that part of the race. He might have done so in the past, mightn't he? But he is a little more selective with where and when his teammates use their energy these days.
A little.
A little bit.
Yeah. Right, still in the north of France for stage 7, which are Bernard Hinault's home roads, these ones. The day finishes at one of the most iconic climbs in the race, the Mur de Bretagne. Now, a lot of you are going to remember this from 2021, where Van der Poel pulled off one of, frankly, his most incredible rides, actually, that we've ever witnessed.
Yeah, well, I think that most incredible rides of any rider ever, in my mind.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, for those that need a reminder that didn't watch it, he attacked the penultimate time at the Mur de Bretagne, should I say. He took the bonus seconds at the top that time, then he got caught, but he still had enough energy left to take the stage win, the bonus seconds that came with that, and then with all of that, the yellow jersey.
Yeah, it was proper goosebumps.
It was,
stuff, wasn't it? This year, they also do it twice in the final. In fact, the final 65k are a carbon copy from that 2021 route. The climb itself is 1.9k at 7%, which doesn't sound too bad, but it's an anaerobic effort which can and will catch some people out.
Yeah, I was looking on Strava. Valverde, I think, has got the best time on Strava at 3 minutes 45, so that is a really hard effort. So the gaps won't be big, but there might be gaps there. Right, stage 8. Brief bit of respite here. This is one of the flat stages, and so it should be an almost guaranteed sprint. 171 k's to Laval Espace Mayenne.
Yeah, there is one categorised climb with 20k to go. but it's tiny.
Yeah.
That said, the last 1.3k or so to the finish does drag uphill, so it's not going to be one of these super high-speed sprints. Time and your effort here is going to be important.
Will be. Stage 9 is another one for the sprinters, which means that both stages on the second weekend are flat, which I would say is a bit disappointing because obviously people have generally got a bit more time to watch on the TV, but still. 174 Ks from Chinon to Châteauroux in the centre of France, which means this could be a very hot one. So expect the Meliers, Philipsons and Milans of this world to be battling it out for the win there.
Now, this is normally where the first rest day comes, but because it lands on the 14th of July, Bastille Day, it's not. It means the riders have a full 10 days of racing without rest this year, which is hefty.
Yes, quite a lot, isn't it? Particularly as this is the first official mountain stage of the race. 165 Ks to Le Mont d'Or Puy de Sancy, which is the only finish of the race that's never been used as a finish at the Tour de France before.
Well, there you go. Whilst the description says it's mountainous, there is nothing mega long on this stage, is it? But it is absolutely relentless. There are 8 categorised climbs on the route in the Massif Centre, or Massif Central, I believe they say it now, and 4,500 metres of climbing.
Which over 165 kilometres, it's a hell of a lot.
Yeah, it is. Again, this could well be a hot one, and if it does kick off, and why wouldn't it in this modern era of racing, it could expose the riders who aren't on the form we expected of them. The climb to the finish is 3.3k at 8%, but it's the fatigue and the energy expenditure before it that will make it feel so tough.
I'm really looking forward to that one.
I'm really
It's just a shame that it's not a bank holiday here in the UK that Monday.
Don't try and pretend that you're not going to be watching at work.
Yeah. Well, I'll be claiming it is my work site. We'll be putting out that week's racing news show after that stage is finished.
Okay.
So I'll have to watch it.
Yeah, all right. The rest day follows. Presumably you'll need that as well, will you?
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Claim that as work. And then they do get to ease back into things gently on stage 11. 157 kilometres, starting and finishing in Toulouse. 1,750 metres of climbing, but it should still be a sprint.
It won't be the following day, because stage 12 heads into the Pyrenees for the first mountaintop finish. 181 kilometres, flat for the first 2/3, but then we hit the big climbs. First up, the Col de Soulor, 11.8 Ks at 7.3%. Then the smaller Col de Bordier, and then finally, Hautecam.
13.5 Ks at 7.8%. This was last used 3 years ago, and it's where Jonas Vingegaard sealed the deal on his first Tour win. Pogačar crashed on the descent before, remember, and then lost over a minute to his rival on the final climb.
I don't think I'm going out on a limb here when I predict the outcome will look slightly different with that stage this year.
Yes.
Big stage though, that one, the first true mountain test, and there's another one the following day, even though it's only 11 Ks long.
Yeah, a mountain time trial. There are around 3 kilometres at the start that are flat, and then it is straight up the Périgord. 8 kilometres at 7.9%, right on the cusp of where a road bike might well be faster than a full-on time trial bike. So equipment choice is going to be really interesting.
As will the result. Nothing quite like a mountain time trial to really lay bare who has it and who doesn't. Rare as hen's teeth these days, the last proper mountain time trial...
That makes you sound so old. Rare as hen's teeth these days.
Well, the last proper mountain TT at the Tour de France, i.e. where they just go straight up a mountain rather than having anything really before it, was 9 years ago in Megève, and before that, 2004. And I actually don't think that Pogačar nor Vingegaard have ever done a pro-level proper mountain time trial before. I might have got that wrong.
Well, that is quite something. Are we not counting the one where Roglic lost the Tour de France?
No, because there was a lot before La Planche de Belfi.
Okay, there we go. Now, it's going to be a shake-up on GC, isn't it? That's for sure. On we go then, shall we?
Yep.
Stage 14. And more mountains.
4 of them to be precise. This is another really key stage for the general classifications. They start in Pau, gradually rising in elevation until they get to the foot of the Col du Tourmalet, which they climb from the western side this time. That one's 19 kilometres long at 7.4%. Then it's the Col d'Aspin, 5 Ks at 7.6%. Straight onto the Périssord, 7.1 kilometres at 7.8%. And then they finish atop Luchon Super Bagné, 12.4 Ks at 7.3%.
That is a classic stage, isn't it? Added up, it's 5,004 metres of climbing, according to Velo, which is a huge day in the saddle, isn't it? Although, we should say there is a bigger one in the final week.
Which we'll be getting onto. So Luchon Superbanier hasn't been used as a finish at the Tour de France since 1989, which is over 35 years ago. Robert Miller won the stage that day, whilst Fignon overtook Le Mans by the smallest of margins on GC. So it's pretty cool that they're finally going back there. Ben O'Connor incidentally set the Strava KOM here on a recent recon ride.
Yeah, there you go. It's on a Saturday, this one, importantly, so more people will be able to watch that full stage, myself included, hopefully. Sunday is a little less fearsome, though. More of a transition stage as they head to Carcassonne. It could be a sprint, but it looks more likely to be a stage fought out by a breakaway.
Then we're on to the second and final rest day, and they'll resume with stage 16 on Tuesday, the 22nd of July. Now, they sort of have a gentle reintroduction to racing because the first 140 Ks of that stage are flat. But then they go up Mont Ventoux.
A climb that really needs no introduction, does it? But I will introduce you to it anyway. It's 15.7 Ks at 8.8%. So it is savage, isn't it? They did it twice in 2021, but it's the first time that it's been a summit finish since 2016. And even then, it didn't go to the top because of high winds.
No, remember that one because that was where Froome started jogging up, wasn't it?
It's hard to forget, isn't it? Yeah. Easier to forget who won the stage that day.
It is, yeah.
But Thomas de Gent stepped forward. So the last time, actually, they finished on top of Mont Ventoux was all the way back in 2013.
Crikey.
That was another Froome one, wasn't it, I think?
It might well have been. I can't think that far back, but I am looking forward to that stage, I must admit. Stage 17 is another transitional stage, this time to Valence, and it looks like this one will be a sprint. Only 1,650 metres of climbing over 160 Ks. After that, it's on to the final mountain stages.
We are starting with an absolute brute. The most climbing in a single stage of the Tour de France for many years at 5,500 metres. I could only find 3 other stages this century with more. Rare as hen's teeth, that.
Now, given that there are only 3 climbs that they're tackling that day, you know they must all be hellish. So the first one is the Col de Glandon, 22 Ks at 5.1%. Then the Col de la Madeleine, 19 Ks at 8%. And then they go up the Col de la Loze, 26 kilometres at 6.5%.
That is where Pogačar cracked good and proper in 2023, wasn't it? Although they finished down the other side that year, the last time they used it as a summit finish was in 2020, and Roglic looked like he'd sealed the deal on the general classification that day, didn't he?
He did, until the Planche de Belfi time trial came the following day.
A mountain time trial there was not a mountain time trial.
No, not quite, no. Anyway, this is a stage that could bring sprinters to tears, and even some of the GC riders, actually, if they're not on a good day. If it hasn't already, the Tour could be won and lost on that particular stage.
Yeah, if it isn't, there is always the next day, which has 4,500 metres of climbing over just 130 K.
After the day before, that's just awful.
Savage. The sprinters will go from tears to just wailing, I suspect, for that one. It includes the all category Col du Pré and another all category summit finish on Le Plagne. So last used in the Tour de France 23 years ago, although it did feature in the 2021 Dauphiné.
Oh, that was the year Padon won a couple of stages, wasn't it?
It is indeed, yeah, including that one.
Right, the climb itself is 19 Ks at 7.2%, and you would imagine there are going to be a lot of riders on their knees at that point in the race.
Yeah, stage 20 goes from Nantois to Pontarlier. It is rolling for almost all of the 184 kilometres, so it looks perfect for a breakaway, and with a 12K 4% climb near the start, the strongest riders might well be able to force clear there.
Yeah, that's the point of the race where people get really desperate, isn't it, if they haven't got much out of the Tour de France up to that point. Mind you, there might be another opportunity this year on the final stage in Paris. It is back on the Champs-Élysées, but with a key difference.
Yeah, I cannot wait for this, Dan. They do 6 laps, but they swap between 2 different laps. So the standard one around the centre of Paris, and then another that takes in the Montmartre climb that was used in last year's Olympic road races.
Quite the shake-up to that last stage, really, isn't it? So that climb that Si just mentioned is 1.1 kilometres at 5.9%. It's not easy by any means, especially that deep into the race. It is going to make it very hard for the sprinters' teams to control, if they even bother trying to control.
Well, they'll at least try, surely, given that I mean, they might as well,
you'd
because
have
there's
thought
nothing
so.
else to do the next
You'd have
day.
thought so. I'm all for this change. I mean, I might have changed my mind on the day itself, but I've got to the point where I'm finding the traditional Champs-Élysées stage a bit dull until the final circuit. This is certainly going to shake things up a bit.
Yeah. Well, the scenes from the Olympics are etched into my brain. Like, that was amazing.
It was, yeah.
What a fantastic spectacle last year. Right, let us know your thoughts, by the way. Is it a good move, or should they stick with tradition? Get involved in the comment section down below.
Okay, just before we get on to the riders taking part this year, quick bit of promo on our side. We've been busy coming up with new designs for July, two of which Si and I are wearing right now. But there are a load more designs that you can find over at shop.globalcyclingnetwork.com. As ever, your support makes a huge difference to us. It's part of how we fund all the free-to-view videos that we put out here at GCN.
I like my LA one very much. I still wear my LA sweatshirt all the time.
Do you?
Yeah,
Well, I've got an
it's a firm
LA
favourite.
t-shirt downstairs.
Oh, yeah, all right.
I'm using this week when I go to France. Don't forget, incidentally, that you can catch a full season of bike racing live on Discovery Plus or Max.
Right, should we get back to things?
Yep.
Okay, on to the riders. There will be 184 of them this year from 23 teams. The UCI allowed the organisers to invite an extra one. We will go in order of the bookies' favourites, so it should come as no surprise to you that we start with Tadej Pogačar, who is the overwhelming favourite.
Yeah, I mean, the best odds you can get for him as we record this are 1.45, which means if you put a tenner on him, and then he wins, you'll make a profit of £4.50, so, which is a ridiculously low odds, especially in a sport where anything can happen. But then again, Pogačar has never ever pulled out of a UCI ranked stage race. He's pretty indestructible.
That is the kiss of death, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
frankly.
there you go.
All right. Fingers crossed, though, because, I mean, it's a crazy statistic, isn't it? Absolutely crazy. How many days of stage racing has he done and not pulled out of?
Well, I looked at my spreadsheet earlier, Si, and it's up to 339 now, from his time as a junior right through to this present moment without a single DNF in stage racing.
You'd think that's almost unprecedented.
You'd have thought so,
I
yeah.
mean, no one is going to be bothered to go and make spreadsheets for everyone like you have.
No,
but
maybe Killian Kelly. I'll ask him.
he probably already knows it, isn't he? Now, some people looking at the route have speculated that Visma might employ the game plan that they successfully employed in 22 and 23, i.e. pushing the pace wherever possible to put as much as fatigue as possible into the legs of Pogačar. But given how much he appears to have improved since that 2023 tour, I don't think it's going to work anymore.
Agreed, yeah. He's not cracking at the end of 3 weeks, at the end of stage of the high calorie expenditure or in high heat, really, anymore, is he?
No.
I think that those 2 years when he was beaten were a bit of a wake-up call for him. You know, a reminder that he can be beaten, and he's addressed those weaknesses with his new coach. I would be surprised, like you, if he succumbs to that strategy again.
Yeah, and he's got a very strong team around him again this year, hasn't he? So Adam Yates and João Almeida, last men in the mountains. Sivakov, Soler, Wellens, Narvaez, they can all do mountains, rolling terrain and flat as well.
Everything.
Whilst Pollitt can do, well, pretty much everything as well, can't he?
Except positioning. He struggles a bit, Pollitt, with positioning, but yeah, he is a beast. Not a team you'd look at and think, they're going to be in trouble defending the yellow jersey, really, is it? He is the rider to beat, and I think they're the team to beat.
Yeah, but naturally, we will move on to Visma and Vingegaard. He must have been on a high when he put so much time into Tadej in the Dauphiné time trial. But then reality hit in the subsequent mountain stages, didn't it? I mean, we know from the past that things can change between the Dauphiné and the Tour, particularly that final week of the Tour. But do they change that much?
I don't see it myself. I mean, I think Vingegaard said that at the Dauphiné he was producing some of the best power numbers that he'd ever done, certainly that he was pleased with them. So to then close that gap to Pogačar, it's a big ask, I would say. Anyway, I do hope he gets close, that we've got a good race on our hands.
I feel like if you're justifying your performance based on power numbers, you've already lost.
Well, but I would be pleased as well if I produced if I'd improved.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you can do, isn't it, really?
Control the controllable, Si.
Ooh, write that one down. Now, Vingegaard has a strong team too, doesn't he? Particularly for the flatter terrain. So Van Aert, Affini, Campenaerts, Benoot, they're all absolute motors on the flat. Jorgensen's Classics pedigree helps him there as well. But he can also climb incredibly well. And Simon Yates will be there. That'll be interesting to see how he's going after winning the Giro. Yeah. And then there is the ever-dependable Sepkus.
Yeah, not a bad team either.
Not
really,
bad,
is it?
yeah.
Quite the team, really, but they have the strength in numbers at the Dauphiné and didn't really make any difference for them at that race, did it? So time will tell. Looks like a team for that first 10 days, though, doesn't it? There's only so much, though, you can do tactically when you're up against somebody as strong as Tadej Pogačar. Again, I hope it's closer than I'm expecting it to be. I'm just not sure it will be.
You're really keeping people in suspense, aren't you, for your prediction later on?
Yeah, Evenepoel.
Yeah, really?
No, I think we should move on to Evenepoel.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, yeah.
So he was third last year, flew around the Dauphiné time trial for a dominant win there, but was a little off the pace in the high mountains. That said, he was way better at this year's Dauphiné than he was last year, so hopefully that bodes well for him.
Yeah, and he's got some new shoes, I was reading.
Has he?
That are really light, apparently. It's his team that is the big question mark.
It is.
Isn't it? So he was often isolated at the Dauphiné. Landa crashed out at the Giro and he's still recovering. Louis Verveca crashed out at the Dauphiné and he broke his collarbone.
Yeah, it's not really been plain sailing for Soudal Quickstep in terms of support for Evenepoel, has it? They're also a team divided in ambitions because they've got Tim Merlier here with a lead-out man as well. More on that later on. So, supporting Evenepoel when the going gets tough will be Ilan van Wilder, Max Schachmann, Matteo Cattaneo and Valentin Paris-Pant. All solid riders, but just not quite at the same level as UAE and Visma.
Yeah, as long as he's got someone with him to get bottles and food and whatever else he needs at some of the crucial moments, he should be fine,
yeah, true.
Right? But I don't think he's closed the gap to the top two in the last 12 months, has he? I mean, mainly, to be fair to him, due to that off-season crash.
Yeah, that really hindered him, actually, didn't it? Wasn't ideal. He's also got someone snapping at his heels for that final podium spot, and also for the best young rider competition, actually. Red Bull's Florian Lipovic. Been flying this year, and he's super consistent as well. And Red Bull, of course, have also got Roglic, who's the official team leader. Now, normally, he crashes out of the Tour, and then he wins La Vuelta, doesn't he? This year, maybe crashing out of the Giro is not such a bad thing.
Oh, I see. Well, when you put it like that, yeah, odds on Roglic are coming down. I do genuinely really hope he stays upright.
Yeah.
And not only that, but clear of illness as well. But great for the team. They've got two cards to play. Vlasov will be in support in the high mountains, and then Van Poppel, Meijers, Pithy, and Van Dijk will be trying to keep them safe on the flatter stages, whilst also going for the sprints.
Yeah, if both of those are even possible.
Yeah.
Wait and see. Right, the next person on the bookmakers list was Richard Carapaz, third at the Giro d'Italia, but it was announced last week he won't be at the start for EF due to illness, which is a real shame.
It's a real shame, isn't it? I mean, even without him, EF have got a really attacking team, haven't they, with Healy and Paulus at the forefront of that. But who have we got next?
Next up, Carlos Rodriguez of Ineos Grenadiers. You can find him at 175 to 1 at the moment, which I think is very generous, personally.
Yeah.
Admittedly, he was off the pace at the Dauphiné, but I feel like that guy comes into his own over the 3-week Grand Tours. Obviously, a podium is going to be difficult, but I wouldn't say completely out of the question if he finds his best legs. Geraint Thomas will also be there, of course, at Ineos Grenadiers to support him in what will be his final Grand Tour as a pro rider.
Oh, that'd be a story to watch, wouldn't it? After that, we've got Enric Mas and Ben O'Connor. Again, podium seems unlikely, but given how big the gulf is from the top few to the rest, I do wonder whether they might be able to slip into a breakaway and gain some time at some point. Jayco also have Eddie Dunbar as well.
On that point of slipping into breakaways, O'Connor's got a recent history of doing just that, hasn't he? Most recently at the Tour de Suisse, although he did slip quite a long way after initially gaining some time on the first stage. Mas seems to have plateaued, doesn't he? He's a great rider, obviously. He just doesn't seem to be able to put 3 great weeks together at the Tour de France specifically.
No, that is true. And he won't like those nervous early stages either. Mathias Skelmoser leads Lidl Trek. Very difficult to say where he's at form-wise. He missed the Tour de France warm-up races because of injury. So the last time we saw him in action in a stage race was at the Basque Country in April.
Yeah.
However, he won the Andorra Morabank Classica just over a week ago, and the field there was pretty strong.
Yeah, so he's obviously not in bad form. We just don't know what his stage race is like.
I also noticed that he won the Danish National Time Trial Championships from 2024 the day before the 2025 race, which I thought was a good
what a farce that was. Anyway, next up, Felix Gall of Decathlon AG2R, 8th at the Tour de France overall a couple of years ago with a stage win on the Col de la Loze. Descending and positioning are his weak points, though. So I could see him losing a chunk of time over this first 9 stages, unfortunately.
Yeah, Lenny Martinez and Santiago Buitrago spearhead Bahrain Victorious' GC ambitions. Both have shown multiple signs of brilliance this season, frankly, but there's still a question mark over their consistency through 3 weeks. Buitrago has said he is gunning for a top 5 on GC, so maybe even a podium, in fact. So you've got to say he's feeling confident.
Yeah, based on those quotes, yeah.
Bilbao and Mohoric will be there for stage hunting as well, aren't they?
Right, one other GC potential we should mention before we go on to the sprinters. Oscar Onley of Picnic Post NL had an amazing ride at the Tour de Suisse, where he's 3rd overall with a stage win. 2nd best climber in the race, I would say, there behind Joao Almeida. Again, I've got a feeling that he will go for stage wins rather than the GC, but you might try and stay up there over the first stages and assess then after the first mountains, we'll see. Oh, and also Tobias Johannesson of Uno X really stepped up his game at the Dauphiné recently.
He did. Did we mention Lennart van Edveld of Lotto?
Oh, no, we haven't actually. I think it's going to be a push for him to ride for GC based on the results he's had so far this year. Plus, it's his first Tour de France, and he also crashed at the Belgian Nationals just last Sunday. But if he's okay after that, he'll be up there on a few stages, that's for sure.
Yeah, okay. On to the sprinters, and we're going to start with Tim Merlier for the simple reason that he has won more races than any other sprinter this year. 10, as we record this, from just 33 days of racing.
Well, it's 34 now, actually, after the Belgian Nationals, but still quite the strike rate, really, isn't it? In terms of pure sprint speed and power, he's pretty much on a par with Jonathan Milan. However, Merlier seems to be slightly better at positioning and instinct, I would say, which I think is why he's getting more wins. Doesn't have a full lead-out train at the Tour de France, but that is often the case and often doesn't affect his win rate.
Yeah, this will just be his 2nd appearance at the Tour de France, believe it or not. He won the first sprint stage in 2021. This year, that first sprint stage also has that yellow jersey on the line, remember. He's got a habit of winning the first stages in Grand Tours, full stop,
sprint stages he has, actually, yeah. It's also pretty close to home for him as well. So for me, he is the favourite for stage 1. Second favourite for me would be Jonathan Milan of Lidl Trek, who's making his Tour debut. He got more raw power really than he knows what to do with, doesn't he? But as we mentioned, he can sometimes get caught a bit out of position.
Yeah, decent lead-out train though.
Yeah.
Stuyven, Turns and Consoni are all powerful and know what they're doing. So it would be more surprising if Milan didn't win a sprint stage than if he did, really. The sprinter on the start line with the most Tour wins, though, is Jasper Philipsen. He's got 9.
And he's really the only sprinter, I reckon, where the whole team are going to be supporting him on the days that suit him the most. Mathieu van der Poel will be there, as will Caden Groves, I think. We know from previous tours that they take no prisoners on the sprint stage, to put it like that. So they are the team to beat. It's just whether or not Philipsen can finish it off.
With their DS in the team car, you know exactly. Amazing. Now, he's not looked quite as fast, we should say, Philipsen, as Merlier in Milan when faced against them in the closing 200 metres recently. But again, you'd have thought he'd probably managed to get at least one stage, wouldn't you?
Well, he's done that consistently recently, yeah.
Yeah, Dylan Groenewegen has won 6 stages of the race in the past, including one last year. Not quite as consistent as he used to be, but he has had 3 wins in the last couple of months.
Albeit not against the strongest competition in those races. Although he is another one that seems to struggle a little bit with positioning, I would say. Last year's green jersey winner, Biniam Girmay, he'll be there for Intermarché. Won 3 stages at the race last year, although unfortunately he's not won a race since then.
No, maybe he'll peak at just the right time.
Maybe. Fingers crossed.
In the absence of Jakobsen, Picnic Post NL will count on Tobias Lund, although he lacks the speed, really, of the pure sprinters, doesn't he? Whilst Lotto have Arnold de Lee. Again, not always particularly consistent, but when he's on form, he is hard to beat, particularly after a tough day in the saddle.
Moving on to Israel Premier Tech, who've got Pascal Ackermann, but also Jake Stewart, who won a sprint stage at the Dauphiné in front of some really good riders recently. Phil Bauhaus will be Bahrain Victorious' man, whilst Uno X will probably look to Søren Varensholt. There was a small chance, actually, that Alexander Kristoff, who wasn't initially selected, would start because Abrahamsen broke his collarbone at the Tour of Belgium a week or so ago. But somehow, Abrahamsen has managed to recover in time.
In 9 days?
Yeah.
That's impressive. Jordi Meus is there for Red Bull. He is very fast on his day, whilst Fernando Gaviria is Movistar's best hope. Now, I wouldn't be surprised as well to see Ganna in the mix on a couple of stages as well, if it's been selective enough. and it's not too dangerous.
Yeah, they've been allowing riders the more freedom, haven't they, Ineos Grenadiers this last season or two. Right, a few other riders that we should mention outside of GC and sprinters. Julian Alaphilippe makes his return to the race after a 1-year absence and with a new team as well. He will lead Tour de Pro cycling. Been looking pretty solid actually this season.
Yeah.
He'll be hunting stage wins.
Other French hopes, Romain Gregoire of Groupama and Kevin Vauquelin of Arkea, both of whom were brilliant, frankly, at the Tour de Suisse, and Valentin Madouas of Groupama as well, who's always good for getting in a break.
Yeah. Without Bardet and Pinot, though, who've both retired, then Godou's been lacking form and not as much to cheer for the French this year. Joe Blackmore gets on to what will be his first Grand Tour. He's also with Israel Premier Tech. Astana XDS, worth watching if the rest of this season has been anything to go by. Don't really have any standout big-name riders, but they'll be picking up decent results, no doubt.
Yeah, and finally, one of the people I'm most excited about, Thibaut Nace.
Oh, yeah.
He's also making his Grand Tour debut. Amazing talent. And whenever we talked about Van der Poel during our stage analysis earlier, you would have thought he'll be in the mix as well.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Cyclocross rider, for those that don't know. Actually, can I add Abrahamsen as well to this? He was such a standout rider last year, wasn't he? I mean, I hope his recent injury hasn't dented his form too much, but he was exciting.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd love to see him on the same form as last year. All right, just before our predictions, a couple of Tour de France stats for you.
All statistics.
So bear with me, Si. Okay. So the oldest rider at this year's race, Geraint Thomas, who turned 39 a few weeks ago. The youngest, not actually that young by modern standards, but Ivan Romeo of Movistar, who's 21. Born in 2003, though.
That makes you sound old as well. Not that young by modern standards.
Well, you know what it's like now, these 19-year-olds winning stuff. Meanwhile, the oldest debutant is Bert van Leeuwenberger of Soudal Quickstep, who is 32.
Finished?
Finished.
Okay. Well, since we know who you're going for, I'm going to give my prediction first.
Oh, are you? Should we do podium and then also polka dot and green and...
Okay, all right then.
Who are you going for?
Pogačar.
Okay, this is going to be boring, isn't it?
Yeah, all right.
Second?
Vingegaard.
Okay.
Who are you going for?
Pogačar, Vingegaard, yeah.
Okay. Third?
Third, I am going for Lipovic.
Oh, really?
Who will obviously be best young rider if that's the case as well.
Wow, okay. I was going to go Van der Poel for third.
Okay, just copy last year's podium result.
Basically,
nice
yeah.
one, Si.
Yeah, thanks.
Green jersey. I am going Jasper Philipsen. I think those first 9 days, he might be able to pick up more points than Malir and Milan because he has improved on the short, punchy climbs. He's a blooming good classics rider now, isn't he?
He is a good classics rider. I wish I'd had longer than 30 seconds to think about this, actually.
I've been thinking about it since last Tuesday.
Oh man, I wonder whether like the amount of stages that aren't for pure sprinters in that first 10 days means that we might not get.
Well, there aren't actually that many real dead sprint stages this year, so yeah, bear that in mind, Si.
Would it be too much?
Do you want to get back to us before next year's race?
Would it be too much of a curveball to go Van der Poel? Do you think it is too much of a curveball?
No, go for it, man.
You just want to see with egg on my face, eh?
No, I'm
going to go Van der Poel. I just think, just feel like, yeah, maybe he's got a bit of a point to prove at the Tour de France.
Don't forget the points are swayed in favour of the sprint stages, as in there's more on the sprint. But anyway,
you're right.
You've gone with nailed your flag to the mast now.
Yeah, okay. Polka dot.
Oh, crocky, Pogačar.
Yeah, Pogačar.
Okay, yeah, it's mega boring, isn't it? Well, maybe you can spice things up in the comments section below by giving us your predictions for the GC, first, second and third, the polka dot, best young rider, and indeed the green jersey.
And remember, this being bike racing, which is fought out over 21 stages, anything can happen. Almost literally, can't it?
Everything does happen, and then Pogačar wins at the end, isn't it?
Well, that brings us to the end of this year's preview show. Thank you for watching, everyone. And, like us, enjoy the racing.
Yeah. Oh, just before we go, actually, keep your eyes out for some Tour de France features coming your way very soon. I'm going to be on the ground next week ahead of the start, because it's quite local, really.
Indeed. Yeah, all right. Great stuff. See you all soon.